Hey guys, this is Patrick. Today what I'm going to be doing is I have a Mego action figure, it's all in pieces now, that I bought at Mego Meat in Columbus, Ohio in June of 2018. Bought it for $5. It was in pretty rough shape. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and show you what it was like in the beginning and then the steps that I'm taking to kind of bring it back. First, what I thought I would do though is give you a little bit of an example and a little tutorial on the different types of Mego action figures. So we have one of each type here, and I just want to show you these. The most common are the type 1 and type 2. Type 1, as you can see, they have these little metal rivets. Let me focus here. Little metal rivets on all the joints. And then type 2, oh, and also you can't really tell on this one, but their bodies are held together with some elastic cord, 16th inch elastic cord that threads through each of the joints. I'll be showing you this later on in the video. Threads through each of the joints and then ties up in the torso, and then you put the head on and you don't see the string. This is a type 2, and as you can see, the biggest difference that you can see externally is the articulated joints. Also, all of the connectors are plastic, and a type of, a heated plastic. A heated plastic connection instead of the metal rivet. Then what you'll also see is something that's referenced to as a type 0. And what this is identical to the type 1, only once again none of the joints, although they're put together the same way, none of the joints are metal. They're just those plastic rivets again. So here's what we have. We have the type 0, type 1, and then type 2. And these are dolls that I'll be recreating the costumes for in a later video. And then this type 0 is really going to be just whatever comes along. At that point, that's maybe something I'm interested in. So getting back to Mr. Spock here, he was in pretty rough shape when I got him. I picked him up at Mego Meat for $5, which was a pretty good deal. And I originally got him because honestly, I thought he was the most messed up. This is my first restoration. I thought he was the most messed up and had the most things wrong with him for me to be able to fix. But then as I started to get him apart, what I realized was I had actually kind of found a diamond in the rough, and he's not really all that bad at all. Of course, his internal string was broken. We're going to be replacing that. And the biggest problem was his right arm had been broken. And originally I thought it was just that the hand had fallen off. But actually, if you look closely, what you can see here is the forearm actually split open. And of course, whatever part left the action figure, the hand went with it. So what I did was I went on to eBay, of course, and I got a replacement right arm, and we'll be using that on this figure. I really did luck out in that the uniform is complete. I have the shirt and the pants, The shirt is a little dirty. Let's see how close I can get on the shirt. So you see some dirt here. We're going to try and wash this off with some woolite in warm water. Try and get it back to back into shape. And then we also hopefully will be able to preserve the emblem on the shirt. If not, we can just order another one of those. That's not too big of a deal. So the first thing we're going to do is now that we have Mr. Spock's complete body, we're going to restring him in a fashion that's similar to the original way that they were done, but with a few key differences. And one of the big differences is, I don't know how well you can see this, but originally the Type 1 figures used this 16th inch elastic. What I prefer to use is this 1/8 inch elastic, which is much thicker, much stronger, and much less likely to break apart inside the body once you have it threaded. The problem is, it just barely fits through the holes. Let's get a close-up here. So each joint has, a hole, and you stick the thread through. The problem is with these figures, the Type 1 figures, using 1/8 inch cord, 1/8 inch elastic cord, is it needs to be stretched out to fit through the holes in the various appendages. So what I like to do is, once again, it's a little hard to see, I like to fray the ends of the 1/8 inch string a little bit. And then going from the back of the arm, oh, and I need my glasses, sorry about that, kids. Feed it through the back of the arm, just so you get a little bit of the, that kind of, threaded end sticking through the joint hole. Okay, sometimes this takes a little bit of doing. Okay, and then when I have a good portion of that kind of threaded end, what I like to do is I like to take my needle nose pliers, grab it on one end, and then just kind of stretch it and pull it through. Okay, and there we have his Mr. Spock's right arm threaded up. Now, leaving one end out, I'll fish it through the torso, out the bottom, and you'll see a couple different techniques. Some people use like a sewing needle or a paper clip. I just find the needle nose pliers are the best. I'm going to insert this into the pelvis, and once again, it may be a little bit tough to see, but there is an internal post in the pelvis, and you just have to be careful to thread it around that internal post. Okay, so now And then what I'm going to do is once again go through the back side of the leg through to the front side. And once again, if I can just get a little piece of that thread, glasses again, a piece of that thread threaded through, and then just pull the rest of it through with the needle nose pliers. Okay. Now there's another video that I'll show a link for, and one thing that they recommend is, I mentioned this post before. And a tip that they had, and what happens is if you ignore that post, the legs tend to splay out in a weird fashion. So what they recommend is actually going up over this post and then back down. So when you pull the string taut, it kind of forces the legs to go straight and not splay out. So now that I'm on the left side of the body, I'm going to fish the line through the inside of the leg and back out the outside of the leg. Okay, and I've got a little starter thread there. I'm just going to, there we go. Okay, and I'm going to feed this up through the torso and out the arm hole. Whoops. I forgot to feed him back through the pelvis. So we're going to do that. We're going to go through the pelvis, then through the torso, and out the armhole. And I'm just going to grab the thread with my needle nose pliers. Okay. And you can start seeing the body come to take its shape a little bit. And on this one, I'm going to go through the front of the arm and then out the back. Once again, just getting that little thread started. Feed it through. And grab it with the needle nose pliers and give it a nice tug. And there we go. And then we wrap that through the torso, and we grab it through the neck and pull up. Okay, now also what I want to do is I want to cut the rest of the string, maybe just a couple inches, 1.5 inches, 2 inches after the joint. And I want to do the same thing on this side where I feed the string through. Oh, perfect. Okay. And what we can do here now is we can start to make our adjustments. Okay, and we have all of the string hanging out. And what I like to do is I like to put the first hitch in the knot, continue to tighten and adjust, make sure it's pretty taut. You don't want it to be super tight because then you won't be able to move any of his appendages. But then you just want to do the second hitch in the knot. Clip off the excess. And then you're good to go with your new Spock torso. He almost stands up by himself. Putting the head back on can be a little tricky. If we're looking at a close-up of Spock's head, you'll see he has the flange around his neck. And sometimes, like if the head's been taken off a lot, that flange will actually crack in there and get very fragile. So you do have to be careful about that. This head is in pretty good shape. What I usually do to get the head back on is just start the process with a straight edge screwdriver. Once again, being as delicate as you can. Just get a little clip in there and then start twisting. And the concept is to kind of basically screw the head back in once you get it started a little bit. Okay. And his head is now back on. So now we have the complete body restrung with the head back on. He's in pretty good shape. He's still very flexible, as you can move his hands and legs around without any real kind of issue. And let's get to cleaning Mr. Spock's uniform. Okay, so I have Mr. Spock's uniform here. His pants are actually in pretty good shape, so I won't bother doing anything with those. His shirt does have some surface stains. Let's see if we can get that into focus. I am hoping that with some woolite and warm water, we can just get these stains out and reuse this shirt. One of my, I guess, approaches to doing this is I want to go for accuracy, but not necessarily authenticity. So if I try to wash this shirt and I end up wrecking it, I'll just get a reproduction shirt from Dr. Mego or one of those folks, ClassicToys.com, one of those places. I'm not going to, box these or card them. I really just want to put them on display stands. I want to leave them in the house. If somebody comes in, I want them to feel free to, be able to pick them up, to play with them, to pose them. So I'm going for accuracy, not necessarily authenticity. So if I end up destroying this shirt by accident, which I certainly hope not to do, I would just go ahead and get another one. So here we go. Let's just see what happens when we put Spock's shirt. And wow, that really got pretty darn clean pretty darn quickly. Once again, I really may have, like I said, gotten a diamond in the rough with this figure. It looks like, and I'm actually going to use the camera to assist myself here. It looks like the majority of that surface dirt just washed off. It is polyester, so it's not, nothing's sticking to it anyway. But I think it's in much cleaner shape than it was even, 30, 45 seconds ago. So what I want to do now is I just want to take it over to the sink and rinse it off and then set it aside to dry. Okay, so now that Mr. Spock's shirt is dry, once again it came out much better than I thought it would. The decal is intact. We have his pants. We have his utility belt. And unfortunately he only had the communicator still in his belt. So what I did was I contacted an Etsy user, and I will put the link to their Etsy store in the description for this video. But they 3D print replicas of the accessories that go in the belt, and of course get slung over the shoulder. And these are nice, fully 3D models. They are the original color, which is nice. And what was nice of this gentleman or lady, is that they gave me a couple extra tricoders, which is nice because the tricoders are always the first thing to break. So really all we need to do is get Mr. Spock's clothes on, get his belt on, get his accessories on, and then he is finished. So go ahead. It's a little bit tougher, because they don't have vinyl boots like some of the other action figures have. The boot segment is actually just the entire lower leg that's bolted directly onto the standard upper leg part. So it's a little bit difficult. Like if you want to make Star Trek, if you want to kind of kit bash Star Trek figures, you always have to start with a pair of legs that are specific Star Trek legs, because they have the black plastic calf boots built onto the leg. Here's our lovely new shirt, or our lovely clean shirt now, and I'm going to feed one arm through, then over the head. And then straight up with the other arm. Get that adjusted. Get that snapped up and back. Luckily the snaps on this figure are intact. Actually there's only one, but that's a big thing. And let's get him untwisted a little. Okay, now let's go ahead and put on his belt, his accessory belt. And let's get that loaded up with a phaser, a communicator. And let's get a tricorder slung over his head. Okay. Now let me just get a stand, and Mr. Spock will be done. Okay, and once again, the nice thing about doing this is, to find a complete Mr. Spock with all the accessories, if you so choose, is actually a pretty expensive proposition. So, if you can find one, like I said, that was kind of, for me, a diamond in the rough, and put a little bit of time and effort into him, you will have a nice, accurate Mr. Spock Type 1 for a fraction of what you would pay for him, you know, at a toy show or a collector's market. You know, this easily costed me, you know, ironically, the most expensive part was the 3D printed accessories. But you know, I had no problem paying, you know, buying those because they are nice, you know, authentic reproductions. But yeah, I would say easily this was less than, well, $20 probably. Mostly because I was able to clean up his shirt. I had the utility belt. I was able to get a cheap replacement arm. And the rest of his body was complete. So thanks for watching. We'll be doing a couple more videos. I have a Batman and a Robin that I would like to get assembled and properly uniformed. And then I'd like the original set of 5 for the Star Trek figures, which was Kirk, Spock, Bones, Scotty, and the Klingon. So I'll be working on a bunch of those as I'm able to you know, scour parts and you know, get that stuff assembled. So thanks for watching, and catch me soon for future videos. Thanks a lot.